Hello, hello, and welcome. Welcome to another live. And of course, we promise to update you, in the context of, any new information as a result of the Constitutional Court's ruling on Friday in the context of the DPP. And we're here to let you know that the government has appealed the Constitutional Court's DPP ruling. And so we want to have a conversation about this new update. And of course, we want to hear from you. Would love to hear your views. So you'll get the opportunity to participate in this conversation as well. You can participate in the live chat, and of course, you can call in and share your views. Soon you'll see the WhatsApp number on screen. All right, welcome, welcome. I see Lexi. Lexi's there in the chat. Welcome, Lexi. And Lexi saying, can't wait to hear what you have to say on the topic. And I can't wait to hear from you too as well, Lexi. And someone who I love to hear from is here with us this evening. No stranger to this platform. Hello, Rurian. Welcome. How are you doing?
Hello, Natasha. How are you doing? I'm pretty fine. I'm pretty good. Developments in this case surrounding the DPP, and that makes this discussion even more exciting. So, how has your day been so far?
Well, so far, so good, and not complaining right now, and looking forward to this conversation as well. And we started this conversation last evening, Rurian, and
Yeah.
based on what we were sharing, and specifically, what I was sharing, I said pretty much that I figured like I had that strong view that the government was going to appeal this decision. And we're talking about political timing and calculation. And based on what I've read so far, it appears to that they're going to ask for an urgent appeal. And so they're saying, this is definitely important, so I'm just going to come back to you now, Ruren, in the context of our conversation last evening and this new development. Is it surprising to you?
Well, it's a bit surprising to me based on the information that was, privy to me yesterday, and based on the fact that I was of the view that, Mark Golden has scored a point as it relates to this, situation, bringing this situation to light. So the I can remember you clearly saying that, based on political timing, it would be, it is something that could happen as it relates to the appeal. You're saying that it would make sense for them to do, that appeal just to make sure that, all the checks and balances, will be done, and, just to show that, yes, we believe in what we are saying. But, I won't own up to what I said yesterday. I'm going to be, honest to the program, and I said that I doubt the government would do that appeal because of the way how things are, and in like that, if they put forward this appeal, and it doesn't work out for them, then it would reflect badly on them as a government based on their track record. and the information that was shared by the news media yesterday about many cases that they have put before the courts, and they didn't do well in. He's talking about the government there. But as the information comes forward, and as the government pleads their cause as well and their case, then it is quite prudent for them to put forward an appeal to see how the judge would rule based on the information that is out there. So, I guess I'll have to take a step forward and turn a new leaf too, and think about what this appeal means as it relates to the government. So, passing back the baton over to you, Natasha.
All right, awesome, Ruben. Thank you so much for sharing there. And I'll say not don't be too quick in terms of subtracting that point, or those points from Mark Golding just yet, because we're not too sure what the outcome is going to be in the context of this appeal. And so that is something that we want to look at too. So I guess today we have a better, well, at least based on what I've seen so far, I have a better understanding of the position of the government in the context of this appeal. And I'm going to share my interpretation of that with you shortly. But welcome, welcome, guys. So as you enter, please remember to hit the like button, the share button, and the subscription button. And remember, this is a safe space where we share and learn from each other. We understand that we hold, different perspectives, our views, and that is totally okay because there is so much richness in diversity. We just share in a respectful way to ensure that we're maintaining our safe community so we do not bash anyone, we do not disrespect anyone, and it's just, peace and love over here. And again, learning from each other in this safe space. So I'm just going to also, all right, share the WhatsApp number on screen. So you should be seeing that number on screen there. And I'm seeing here, I just need to correct my slide here. So let me just stop sharing here a bit. I have your views, your views. You see, we really want to hear your views in the context of, what is happening right now for sure. And, want to hear from you. Absolutely want to hear from you. So don't be afraid to give us a call. All right. Would love to hear from you. So soon I'll just get that screen back up for you. But welcome, welcome, guys. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So again, all right, you should be seeing the screen back there. Would love to hear from you. The WhatsApp number is on screen. Don't be afraid to give us a call. So one of the I guess just to give an update as to how we got to this point. So on Friday, we were made aware that the Constitutional Court, ruled that the second extension given to the DPP was null and void and of no legal effect. So my understanding is that back in, I believe, 2020, and Ruren, you can correct me on this one, the DPP reached the age of 60, and at that point, the retirement age for the DPP was 60 years. And so based on the fact that the DPP reached that age, the DPP, just from looking at the court document, the DPP asked for an extension, right? That extension was granted, and I suspect that the DPP, I'm not sure what was the period, and I guess for 3 years, because initially I believe it was sought for 5 years, but at some point, some 3 year, agreement was, I guess met at some point. Not too sure about that. But what happened, I guess, up until that point, when the DPP got to 63 years, the government passed or amended the legislation in terms of the retirement age from 60 to 65 for the DPP and the Auditor General. All right. So, in the context of that, I guess the PNP, the opposition, they were pretty much saying that, the government, I guess, did not have, it was against the Constitution based on what was passed. So they took the matter to court, Peter Bunting and Philip Paulwell, on behalf of the opposition. And so on Friday, the Constitutional Court ruled that the amendment in the context of the retirement age from 60 to 65 is valid. All right. So that part of the law in terms of what the government did is totally okay. That's what the court is saying. But what the court is now saying, based on my understanding of Friday's ruling, is that the second extension that was given to the DPP was pretty much invalid, of the null and void and of no legal effect. All right. And so, in the context of that development, initially the government was saying, okay, the DPP will remain, and they'll try to seek some. They're going to appeal to get some clarification on as it relates to what this means in the context of the ruling. And so the opposition was maintaining that the DPP must leave the office. And we heard that was very strong coming from the opposition. And then Sunday afternoon, we got, some information that pretty much coming from the Attorney General's chamber that Paula Llewellyn was going to leave office. So she's walking away based on the ambiguity and uncertainty, of the ruling. And so she's unable to carry out the duties of her office at this time. So we got that. So over the weekend, I guess there were efforts were made, and I guess successful efforts to get the Public Service Commission back into commission, because that commission, unfortunately, their time was up. So that happened. And on Monday, we were updated as it relates to an acting DPP, Claudette Thompson. All right. So we got that. And so that's pretty much an update into us, now learning about the appeal, the filing of the appeal. I mean, that was already there on the cards because the government was, saying they are going to appeal. So the question is, in the context of this new development, would love to hear your views in the context of the position of the government that I'll be sharing with you shortly as well. So, given that, right, in this context, what do you believe? So I'm just going to try to read this. So the government has filed an appeal to resolve what it's describing as an inconsistency in a recent court ruling concerning the tenure of Paula, all right, as the DPP. So, as I mentioned, the Constitutional Court struck down an amendment that allowed Ms. Llewellyn to elect to stay in office beyond her 63rd birthday. And as I have been saying last evening, Rurian, I believe the problem with this case is the language, and the fact that based on the language with that particular piece of amendment, Paula Llewellyn could decide whether or not she choose to continue as DPP up to the age of 65. And so in this context, I am wondering if that's just the problem because the court is saying that extending the retirement age from 60 to 65 is valid. So if Miss Llewellyn is 63 years old, why is it that she's not able to continue until 65 if it is that this piece of legislation is valid as the court declared? So as I suspected, and that this is solely based on my interpretation, the fact that, the wording of that other amendment is giving the DPP the power. I guess the court is saying that there is too much power invested in the hands of the DPP. So, as the government or the constitution would want it, it should not be up to the DPP whether she decides to stay or if she decides to go. And so I am suspecting strongly that that's a part of the problem. So that's where I am saying, and I could be wrong, but I am going to hold on to that interpretation because it should not be the case where so much power is in the hands of the DPP. So think about it this way. You, the government legally, because they say no, this is valid. The retirement age has been shifted from 60 to 65 for the DPP and the Auditor General, right? So the court is saying that is totally okay. But the other part of it that the court struck down was that piece of amendment where the DPP could elect to stay or not stay. And I feel that is where the problem is, right? The problem is not the fact that, and again, my interpretation, the problem is not the fact that the DPP cannot stay until 65. The problem is the DPP should not be able to have that power to decide if she stays until 65. I feel that that is the problem. All right, let me just go to the chat. Ira from Morris, welcome, welcome. And Ira is saying the damage is already done. I think she should walk even if they won the appeal. This government is losing it constitutionally. This is not the first case they lost in the constitutional court. For sure, we spoke about that last evening, Ira. And and I guess a lot of us were talking about that too. Even if the appeal is won, the DPP should go. And I suspect that will happen, but I can also understand why the government would want to seek this clarification as well. I can also understand that. Max Morgan, welcome, welcome. And thanks for liking. Yes, guys, please remember to close the chat, hit the like button, hit the share button, hit the subscription button. And Soji Carlton Lovelace, you see our member there in the chat, so you can join as well as a member for this channel. Blessings to you too, Soji. Bless up, bless up. And Ira saying, I think she was given an extension already. She may not qualify for another extension. So I get what you're saying. So, and that's a part of it too. The government is saying there is nothing there about a second extension because the law was passed. And if the Constitutional Court is pretty much saying it is valid, there is nothing there requiring a second extension. All right, because this law was there, I guess, at the point when she turned, I guess, 63 and heading to 65. The law was now in place. So there is nothing there about a second extension. So in the context of, outlining their reasons for filing the appeal, the government said, despite affirmation of the government's move to increase the retirement age of public officers, the court ruled that the current DPP could not remain in her position until age 65, creating a significant contradiction within its verdict. So that's what the government is saying. The government says it remains committed to ensuring that the statutory and constitutional amendments serve their intended purposes without ambiguity. All right. And so what the government is saying that there's a too many clouds in the context of this judgment. So, the ambiguity, the uncertainty, the fact that the retirement age from 60 to 65 is valid. And so, we want to get some clarification. So just to look at the appeal here some more, in 2017, the government introduced the Pensions Public Service Act 2017, initiating a policy shift to extend the retirement age of public officers from 60 to 65. This change was further cemented by the Constitution, so the amendment of Section 96, subsection 1, and Section 121, subsection 1, so the Act 2023, which specifically adjusted the retirement ages for the DPP and the Auditor General from 60 to 65. All right. On April 19, so that was last Friday, the court delivered a judgment in the case of Philip Paulwell et al. Versus the Attorney General of Jamaica. The court upheld the constitutional amendments confirming the valid extension of the retirement age for these positions to 65 years. So again, the court is saying that law that you passed in terms of the amendments, in terms of the age from 60 to 65, it is okay. It is valid. No problems there. However, and this is the position of the government now, despite this affirmation, the court ruled that the current DPP could not remain in her position until age 65, creating a significant contradiction within its verdict. In response to this conflicting outcome, the government, represented by the Attorney General, has filed an appeal with the Court of Appeal to resolve this inconsistency. The appeal argues for a harmonization of the retirement provisions, maintaining the intended retirement benefits for all affected public officers as per sections 2, subsection 2 for the DPP and section 3, subsection 2 for the Auditor General in alignment with the Constitution. The government remains committed to ensuring that statutory and constitutional amendments serve the intended purposes without ambiguity or disadvantage to any public officer. So that, in a nutshell, is pretty much, the position of the government there. So, Rurian, I'm just going to come over to you. And guys, the phone line is open. You can definitely give us a call. Would love to hear your voice. Again, we keep it real and respectful. We don't bash anyone, and we're not going to call out anyone because we are not that kind of space. So we just keep it real and respectful and to not put ourselves in any legal, troubles. So we keep it real respectful and we say what we want to say in a very respectful way. So Rurian, I'm just coming back over to you to find out, if there is anything you want to share given this update or given what we
Yeah,
know so far.
just just a few things. I'm going to go way back to the
Oh,
point where
certainly,
you
certainly.
scored a point for Mark Golding as it relates to this, bringing this situation, this case to light. The fact that the appeal is there, it means that the point is pending. So it could go either way. So I'm not saying that he lost the point in any way or form. But, coming forward to where we stand currently and the point that was made as it relates to the DPP having too much power. So I'm analyzing that aspect and I'm wondering,
And
and this
that's
is just
my
my
point.
view.
So let us be clear
Yeah.
about that's just my interpretation. Okay.
Okay. All right. So this is my view on it. If she chooses to resign, retire today, this does that has anything to do with it in the sense that she could choose to retire or resign her job at any point in time. So she
Yeah, so
has
the
that power
resigning is different from retiring. So
for sure.
I guess that's the difference. So what the government, I
So
guess in essence, based on the amendment, is that the DPP, could decide when she retires, which I believe the court is saying, no, 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 you cannot, as the in that office, determine when you retire. So the government just need to be clear about it. So if the age is 65, then it means that your time in terms of retirement is at 65. So you don't decide if you take it at 63 or 65. I feel that's where the problem is coming from. But back to you.
okay, no worries. So you're thinking that it's the case that she chooses when she wants to retire. And that's the case. So it is a case that she has to go up to the age of 65, or it's just the fact that she has that option. Because, like I'm saying, I'm not sure if that has a lot of bearing right now in terms of how the situation is. And, you know, in essence, she has served most of that 5 year extension already. So, I'm wondering if it is a lot of energy that is being focused in the wrong area. But I'm sure others would argue that, in future cases, then this could be a reference point. But um, it's good that the government has, taken their stance and, want the situation to be clarified. So, just to make sure that everyone is on the same wavelength and having the same understanding of this. So, I can't wait to see that ruling. But, as I said, I'm not sure if this case is worth a lot of looking into based on the stage that she's at and based on the fact that she was granted and approved 5 years in terms of heading toward her retirement. So
I'm
that's
not
pretty much
sure she
my
was given. I think the first extension was 3 years, but I would perhaps counter that somewhat, Ruben, by saying that I get what you're saying, that the government should not major in the minor, but at the same point, you also made reference to the possibility of future situation, and in that context, I can see why this would be necessary for the court to tell us specifically what this means, because as it now stands, is it a case where the DPP is no longer able to function in that office? Is it that she's totally out? Is it that the court is trying to say? Or is it a case where, as I suspect, and again, this is just my interpretation, that the problem here is the fact that the DPP can choose when to retire. That is the problem. And not just for this DPP, it would be problematic for other DPPs to come if that were to be. But the court is saying, no, 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 this is null and void and of no legal effect. So we're getting rid of that. So if it is, the court has said, okay, with this amendment, it has no teeth. It cannot bite. It's ineffective. It's not legal. But what the court is still saying is that the retirement age moving up to 65 is okay. So where does that leave the current DPP? Is it that she can stay in the office until she reaches 65? Give it, because that's how this is appearing. Or is it a case where they're saying, no, you cannot stay, which I can see where the ambiguity or some form of uncertainty, come in at some point there. And so that needs some clarity in that sense there.
Yeah, for sure. And I understand what you're saying there. And as the government said, there's some sort of contradiction as it relates to the ruling that is coming forward.
Yeah, for sure. And so just to say, the opposition, they were expecting, I guess, the first part to be rendered invalid as well from 60 to 65. So it's not as if it's just this one little part, but the court is saying, that part is okay, the other part is that. And I can see, just looking at it from just, logical, just logics, not necessarily the legality of it. I can see why that can be problematic. So it's as if I have you there in office, Rurian, working for the people, and then I'm going to say, all right, Rurian, you decide if you want to retire at 60, 63, or 65. When other persons in public office, there's usually, when it comes to retirement, a set age, right? And so when I give you that option, you have the power to say, you know what? All right, me take it at 60, or me take it at 63, me take it at 65. But I guess, again, that I just feel, based on my own analysis of things, that that is where the problem lies. The fact that the DPP has that power to decide if I stay, or when I choose to retire. And I feel, again, that that's the big problem where this is concerned. But I guess what the government was looking for is that, okay, if it is that, since you struck this part down, you should just tell us, well, the DPP must stay until 65, since the retirement age was passed from 60 to 65. I guess they were looking forward to that kind of clarity that perhaps did not come, that lend itself to multiple interpretations. So some saying that it means that the DPP must go, and some saying that the court did not really say that. So that part of it. And so you have legal experts having different opinions, and one can understand that. And the only way that we can get this kind of clarity is, I guess, going back to the court. And last evening, I also suggested that the government, they could apply, I guess, to get some clarification from the court. Not too sure why that wasn't taken. And I guess going to the Court of Appeal, perhaps, stronger and perhaps more effective in the context of what the government is looking forward to hearing. I don't know, but for now, it is what it is. The government is appealing on that point, in the sense that, they're saying that the constitutional court's ruling is pretty much contradicting itself. So back over to
But
you, Ruben.
yeah, so this is my question to you then. So because of the discrepancy that surrounds the seat of or should I say the seat of the DPP, right? The uncertainty that is there. Miss Llewellyn said that she was unable to carry out her duty because of what is there in terms of the discrepancies. If tomorrow the court rules and this is pacified, could she be able to continue her term given that if she is given the necessary clarity going forward? Because she's saying that the environment in which her seat has no, it's not conducive to her performing her task. So I'm saying if she gets that clean slate or that sense of comfort so that she's able to execute her duties, is it possible for the DPP to continue her tenure based on the fact that the extension said that she was able to work up to age 65. One, two, she wants to work up to that age of 65 as well. Or should I say, might have wanted to or wanted to. I'm not sure based on what is happening now. But I'm not sure if you're getting what I am
I'm
saying,
trying to figure out what
Dr. Philip.
extension are you referring to?
That initial one that gave her
I
the
think it
five
went up
years.
to 60. I think it went up to 63. I doubt they agreed to. Initially, it was sought for 5 years, but I guess there were some back and forth, and it was 3 years were recommended. I think it was 3 years. So that's how now, after the 3 years, has expired, those 3 years have expired. That's how the opposition, I guess, brought this matter because they're saying, she should leave. But in the context of your question, in the sense where the DPP said she's unable to carry out her functions at this time. There's a provision, I believe, in the is it the Constitution? There's a provision there that pretty much states if that's one of the reasons I believe an acting DPP can be appointed if it is that the DPP is unable to carry out her functions. And based on the constitutional ruling, that's a reasonable position to take if it is that, legal experts are saying this is not clear. All right, we need some clarity. So, yes, in that sense, I say that's fine. In the context of if you refer to if tomorrow the court should come and say it's okay for the DPP to continue until age 65, for sure, it means that she is still the DPP because, as we now know it, Claudette Thompson is the acting DPP. And I suspect that the government is foreseeing that this should take a relatively short time because they have asked for, I guess, or they are asking for an urgent, I guess, appeal or hearing. And so, as we now know it, Claudette's, appointment is for 6 months. So I am suspecting that the government is saying within that time, we should have some form of clarity as it relates to what this outcome might look like. Perhaps after 6 months, maybe not, and they might have to extend the appointment. Or if they get some clarity, I guess the DPP at this point can choose to resign if she determines that, she does not want to continue in that office. If it is that the court say, okay, you're still the DPP, then it means that she would have to go until 65. So if that decision comes before 65, she can continue or she can choose to resign, or perhaps she will just take some stress leave or something and allow the time to work. I suspect that she must have some leave or whatever, or those human rights, not human rights, human resource, stuff should go HR stuff. And so, in that context, it may be the DPP is going to still go to the 65, but perhaps take some vacation leave or whatever leave she might be entitled to, and perhaps not go back to that position and then wait for the retirement age to kick in and retires. So that could be a possibility. But unless, if the court again should say, yes, you can, she could resign, but given where she's at, I don't think she would want to mess up the possibility of a retirement package because she's 63, and I guess this year she's perhaps going to be 64. So there might be, leave that she can take to kind of go out, to ride out the storm until 65. So she may not necessarily go back to the position. So we'll still have somebody acting until she retires. If it is that the court should say, perhaps, it's okay, your position is okay, in that sense. So I'm just coming back over to you, Ruren.
Okay, really interesting one here. Really interesting. And I love the way that you analyzed it in terms of, her not necessarily going back into the seat full fledged, but can find a way and navigate how to get to that mark where she is going to be 65 so she can get her, let's say, her retirement package that is due onto her. And I'm wondering how would that work if if that 3-year rule was kicking in when she was at 63, if she would be privy to that package. But interesting case here coming forward. I love the fact that the government is moving, really fast on this in terms of the appeal is out there and they're trying to expedite the process to get this pacified. That speaks to them being confident in the results that might come as it relates to this appeal. I don't know what is your view on that, but yeah, that I think it is inspiring lots of confidence.
Perhaps I missed your question. Could you just say that again, Ruren?
No, I was just saying that the way the government is acting as it relates to this in terms of getting the appeal done and also trying their best to speed up the process. I am saying it is symbolic that they are saying that we are confident that we can have this, going our way and we want to do this pretty quickly. So that's all I was saying. And I was saying, I
Okay.
don't know what I don't know what's your view on that.
Okay, I guess you can look at it that way, Ruren, in the sense that they're confident, but also look at it from another perspective where they have an acting DPP and perhaps they would like to have, not somebody who is acting. So getting that clarification too is also important to cement someone in that position if it is that Paula Llewellyn is no longer the DPP based on the court's ruling on Friday. So I feel you can look at it, your way and also this other way in the sense where, yes, they might see some strong grounds for appeal and confidence in the outcome. We don't know what that will be yet. But at the same time, wanting this clarification in terms of moving forward, in terms of, advertising the position, in terms of trying to get a DPP, if it is that Paula Llewellyn is no longer the rightful, holder of that position. So I think we could look at it from that perspective as well, Ruren. What are your views on that?
For sure, I take your point as well. It could be that as well, and I'm sure the government want to have all the system that operates around them, to be well settled. As you said, getting a permanent DPP in place would, be better for them rather than having somebody who is acting. So I guess it could. That's definitely a valid point. Not actually.
Yeah, for sure. So persons in the chat. The chat is pretty quiet now. Would love to hear from you. And perhaps would love to get a call or two as well, before we kind of wrap up this conversation. We promised you in the context of updating you as to, what is happening, and we'll continue to provide, updates as to developments in the context of this case as well, and we'll let you know as soon as possible or as best as we can in the context of the information that is available to us. So would love to hear from you. So as you pop in, guys, please remember to hit the like button, the share button, and the subscription button as well. And we would love to hear from you. So I'm not sure if someone would like to call. you can give us a call. The WhatsApp number is on screen, so WhatsApp calls only. And you can also continue to participate in the chat, so you can share your comments in the chat as well. And so, Rurian, I know we spoke about this, last evening, and I believe I saw, yes, the comment there in the chat from Irefa Morris, and pretty much Irefa Morris is saying that even if the government, if they win this appeal, the DPP should still stay away. What are your views on this point?
Interesting point there. Interesting point. Um, that, it's a tough one. It's a tough one. I think only Paula would be able to answer this one, truthfully. But you know, if she thinks she has unfinished business there, I would say yes, go and finish your tenure there, because if she had things planned for that, you know, then I would say go and finish your tenure. So I'm leaning toward her going to finish off at her age 65 for sure. So
Well, it's
that
interesting that you say that, and like I would like, even if the government, if they should win, I would rather she takes whatever leave is available to her and see out her time to retirement. So that's 65 without going back into an active role. Yeah, I would just given all things, just unfolded, somewhat. So I would perhaps rather to see her just take that time, whatever leave. And if it means that she has to go back like a day before retirement or a week before to ensure that everything is legit in terms of, as you would say, the retirement package, perhaps I would support that if it is, because I mean, she's very close to that. And and perhaps she just wants to know, just like, everyone else, is this a case where I'm no longer, in this position, or am I in this position? So she just get that clarity as well in the context of how everyone moves forward. So that is significant, and I suspect that perhaps she'll just, unless she does not have any vacation leave, if it is that the government should win, or perhaps the leave may not be able to go to that point of perhaps a year, or I don't know how long will be left after the possibility of an outcome in with this appeal. But it would be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how things unfold. But for sure, I'm definitely interested in definitely seeing the outcome of this one. And it's something for all of us in terms of learning and understanding the law as well. And Rory, and sometimes I wonder, why is it that the law and persons within that field, why is it so technical? Why we don't make it so that, the ordinary person is not necessarily aware or studying law, or of that legal knowledge, can understand what our laws mean? I don't know. That's perhaps another question or another show, but I'm coming back over to you based on my comments just now.
well, okay. So I guess it would be lovely if everything was etched, as or set out in such a way where it's yes or no. But persons are always finding ways to get around the law, and I guess that's where the technicalities come in, just to try to make sure that the law is protected. But I'm going to go back to the point that you made before that. You said you wouldn't want the DPP to go back into an active role, right? So this is my question to you. If the DPP does not, for any reason, go back into active role, you are saying that you'd rather have someone acting for that time period, which would be almost a year and a half in the position of the DPP. Is that what you're saying?
Well, it depends. All right. So as it now stands, since yesterday, Monday, we could not count that time, right? Because of what they're deeming, the uncertainty or, ambiguity surrounding the court's ruling. So the DPP pretty much does not, cannot, as she mentioned, is unable to carry out the functions or duties of her office at this point. And so I guess where we would start counting, right, would be after the decision is made, after the Court of Appeal, makes their decision. So if it's a case, for example, where the decision is made, and let's say the DPP is now 64 years old, right? Then we'll have a year there, 1 year. So it depending on how things are going, and again, I don't know, those things are HR related stuff. I'm just saying, like, if it is that she was able to take some time away from office, then perhaps that would work for her in terms of her best interests. And sometimes when these things happen, we look at it, from a legal standpoint, but sometimes emotionally, mentally, it can be very tough on a person, right? Because this is something, and you'll say, okay, it's a law, you should know the law, but sometimes we need to just take a little step back and kind of put ourselves in a situation like this to kind of think, how would you be feeling after giving like 16 years? Would this be the way you want to see yourself, going down in history, not even understanding perhaps what is really happening? And so that can be tough on a person, I guess, mentally or psychologically. And so I'm not too sure how that is going. The DPP hasn't really said anything to the media as far as I know at this point, even with the statement that came out that she was unable to carry out the duties of her office, at this time, that came via the Attorney General's chamber. So I'm not too certain. I doubt we have heard anything from the DPP since that ruling. And I appreciate her too not sharing anything. So, let the court deal with whatever it is that they need to deal with, and I appreciate that, not having anything to say, because she has a legal mind, so she definitely will have an interpretation of this in the context of what it means to her as a legal professional. So I am appreciative of that, in the sense where she has maintained her silence, and I really like that. I really appreciate that. So we're not able to say, okay, the DPP saying this or the DPP saying that. Even if she is sharing something, we're not hearing about it. And so far, at least so far, and to my knowledge, I haven't seen or heard anything saying that the DPP has shared. No, I haven't seen that. So really appreciate that aspect in the context of, professionalism. Really appreciate that. And so back to your question, Rorian, to say it all depends on the timing. So if it's a case where the decision is made and say, for example, she only has 3 months to go or 6 months to go, then take whatever time. Perhaps if there's more than a year, then I suspect that she would have to perhaps go back, and I don't know if she's going to do out the year or maybe do a few months, take some leave, and then come back for retirement. But if it is I guess more than a year, or at least a year or more, then perhaps she'll have to go back because I doubt you'll get, vacation leave for a year in that sense. And so lots there to think about in that context for sure. But we'll definitely see in terms of timing what that will look like depending on the appeal process. So back over to you.
Okay, so yeah, interesting views there shared, Natasha. I think though, as you said, the whole emotional tie toward that job and the years of service. I'm sure too that she wouldn't want to have that being the icing on her cake as it relates to that job that she carried out as the DPP. So I think she would want that fixed, and I am sure she's going to ensure that her best interest is kept at the forefront as it relates to decisions being made going forward. So, you know, she has that legal background and knowledge, and I'm sure she's going to ensure that whatever is due unto her, then she will get it. So, as you said, if it means that she has to go back into office, for a few weeks or so, and she will do. But, for me, my point is that, if she if she's given the opportunity, then she should just go back and finish off her tenure. And I'm saying it from the standpoint where, once things are being deliberated, at least for the next 6 months, we would have a acting DPP, right? Because she's unable to carry out her task right now. So that's somebody who's in office for 6 months. It be a case where that after that 6 months, that person decide that they don't want to continue. Then we could have, in the space of let's say a year, 2 or 3 different DPP. I'm not sure how that would, affect the way how they would perform, but I'm sure that it would have some impact along the way. So I'm thinking that she should go back if she gets the opportunity, finish off her tenure, and somebody goes in afterward with a blank slate to start, knowing that they have a term that they're going to serve, and they can do things the way that they see it fit. So that's my view on it, Natasha Lee. Pass it back over to you.
For sure. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing there, Ruren. And yes, guys, we're about to wrap this one up. But before I do that, Ruren, before we wrap things up, I'm just going to ask you one final question. In the context of the government appealing this ruling, do you think, this is just your views that we are not lawyers here, right? So let me just make it clear. Do you think that they have a strong argument, at least a strong argument in the context of this appeal? So since that's we're kind of just circling here and kind of closing off. So do you think the government, they have a point in the context of going for this appeal?
Most definitely, and these are brilliant minds at play here, and the fact that they can conjure up and say, "All right, this is worth going after." Yes, I would say that there is, and the point that the government is making is that things are not clear, and that's where the line gets really blurry. And that's where the jury, that's where the judges need to come in and come to add some clarity so that there's only one interpretation of the law that is in place. And if it is being interpreted in different ways, it means that stuff needs fixing. And I think that's where the government is going. When that ruling comes forward, regardless of how it falls, then they would decide it could be beneficial for the government or not. But I think it's worth going for because clarity is necessary for one this situation and for future situations that might get to this stage. So this is kind of a precedent setting kind of thing. So hopefully, some clarity can come forward and things can move forward. So that's my take on it. I definitely think they should go forward with that appeal, and I think it is a good idea because clarity is needed for everyone.
Well said, Ruben. Thank you so much. I doubt I have anything else to add to that, but I just want to say thank you so much for coming over, for tuning in, and for sharing there in the chat and for supporting this space. And most importantly, thank you so much for maintaining our safe community. So, blessings and love, everyone. And please stay tuned. Please remember to hit the like button, the share button, and the subscription button. And remember to tap that bell and select all so that you do not miss any updates from this channel. We'll definitely keep you updated as soon as we get more information on this matter. Thank you so much to Ryan for sharing as always. Really appreciate your support and the knowledge that you share with us, time after
Yeah,
time after time. Thank you
you're
so
most
much.
welcome.
All right. So guys, take care and I will see you in the next live. Blessings and love everyone.